We couldn't play our logo because it got rid of, it's for some reason, it's just deleted them off the interface. Anyway, hello everyone. I think I'm on sound. Can you hear me, all of you?
I'm sure they can hear you.
Welcome to another edition of Towards the Light podcast, episode 5. Despite what the title says, episode 4. It's episode 5. We are delighted to be here with you. Give us a sound check in the live chat. Let us know we sound okay. Very special episode today, possibly our most important show yet, and one thing which will elevate us all beyond this duality. It will be the end of duality. Now, some of you will get this today, some of you will not get this, and that's fine. It's quite an advanced topic. We're going to build the foundation of intellectual understanding to move into next week's, because this is a two-part show, episode, which will be more of the practical development of embedding this into your consciousness. So when you look out on the world, you'll just see God. Sounds great, doesn't it? It is. Pippi, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you all for letting us know in the chat that it sounds good. It was funny because today is obviously April 4th, 2024. So we've got the 4444 portal. I'm pretty sure that's why David wrote that it was episode 4 instead of 5. Maybe you were just having those 4 energies come through. We have had an exciting week. We had our New Year's party last weekend. We had a gathering of the soul family, people that we've met and connected through, mostly through this channel. We had a personal invitation for some of those people to come over and do meditation with us. So it was a busy week, lots of excitement. And now that it's springtime, it seems like we've got lots of people wanting to come visit, but we are still going to make time to come on and try to do these shows for you guys. We haven't come out with our April schedule yet. We've been talking about doing that every day. We just haven't quite got it out there. So today, obviously, we've got our podcast, and at the end of every live show that we do, it's followed by a short meditation. This will be kind of a 444 meditation today. And then we also have our upcoming global meditation, which is going to be in conjunction with many other meditations across the globe for the upcoming solar eclipse on April 8th. So we'll be coming at you live at 7 o'clock p.m. PST, as we always are, for one of our Sunflower Life meditations. It seems like a lot of people are doing meditations this day, but we know ours is going to be incredibly powerful. So hoping you can all join us that day for our big, massive, colossal global meditation that will be taking place. And then, as David mentioned, we've got a lot to say about this topic. So tonight's going to be kind of part 1. And then we're going to continue on with part 2, just rounding off everything we have to say about tonight's topic. And that I think we're going to do that show on Tuesday, April 16th. And that's probably going to be our last live show for April, as I've got some traveling to do at the end of the month, and we've got some company coming, and it's really hard for us to step away from that to do this, but we will absolutely come up with a May schedule shortly.
Yeah.
If you guys are joining from any other channel other than Sunflower Life, just so you know, as soon as this live stream is finished broadcasting, we're going to be taking it off all the other channels. So if you are joining from another channel and you lose the stream, you can find us on YouTube at the Sunflower Life Official. That is our YouTube channel. Sorry, honey, did you have something to say?
So many things.
Oh, go ahead.
No, well said. I mean, it is a very energetic time. We wanted to really touch on the intellectual side of this tonight, the belief in two powers. We're going to get into the heart of tonight's show in a minute. But we do think that from our own experience on this path of awakening, that this is a big one. It is a really, really important concept to realize within yourself, within your consciousness, and a very important one to move from the intellectual place to the place of realization, because it will allow you to see through the illusions of the matrix for a large part. Before we get to that, I want to maybe ask you guys about last week. Those of you who were part of last week's show, we offered up some potential homework for you guys to do. I wonder if any of you remember that. Now, the homework was not necessarily to list. I'm not necessarily interested in hearing what you guys have said, even though I will ask you in the live chat to post it if you feel called to. But the question was to stir up some areas in your life where you're limiting yourself, because one of the initial stages, and those of you who are not aware of these stages, you've got to go back to the first show we did on this. There's 4 stages, or the second show. There's 4 stages which we outlined of from zero to Christhood, basically. And of course, there's quite a lot of depth to each stage. It's not sort of change gears quickly, although that may happen for some. For most people, it's a long process. Is as you wake up, one of the most important things to do is to shake yourselves loose from the identification of the physical form, from the places you live, from the body that you have, and things like that. Now, we've done a number of exercises over the last 4 shows, today's the 5th, on really how to get on the fast track with disassociating yourself with your physical body. Even though it's fine, we're integrating that with the monad, with the higher self. But we can delay that by clinging on too much and generating too much security with the physical realm. So we just pulled some roots up by doing some exercises with you in other shows. But one of the things was that we asked you was to list out what your limiting beliefs were. Where in your life do you not feel abundance? Where in your life do you not feel powerful? Where in your life do you not feel certainty that things are going to work out? Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's in your bank account, maybe it is in yourself, maybe it's a health thing. So I want to invite you now to maybe list that out in the chat if you're willing to do so. We're going to go into ours as deep as we can go. Where in your life do you feel limited right now? I'll give you a minute just to write in the chat. I'm sure Pookie's going to jump in here.
Yeah, we were coming up with different ways to word that question. It was a little bit challenging to say, these are my limiting beliefs, when a lot of times we're not aware that we have limiting beliefs. So another way to word that question is, what are some of your biggest fears? Or what do you feel that is limiting you or holding you back from being the person that you want to be? I know you mentioned some of our previous shows that we've been having discussions on, and it's really good because each show we do kind of builds on the last show, and it gives people a chance to ask questions. And that's why we started doing these, just so that we can be more present with you guys in the chat and hearing some of your answers and suggestions and comments and questions and getting to kind of address those head on. So I think it's really good that you're starting the show with, last week's homework and this question, because I think it's really going to lead into and prompt tonight's discussion. So
okay, we're already getting a bunch of
we are getting a bunch, I see. You want to read some out?
Sure. Hey, Kuldeep. We missed you on the weekend, my dear.
Yes, Kuldeep canceled on us last minute and did not come to our New Year's party.
Call you out live on air. We're just
we did
kidding.
Miss you. We missed your presence. Everybody did.
We did. Okay, so let's both Kuldeep, Krista, Sved, Mulial, I'm sure you'll go on here. I'm going to keep up with you all, but you said, let's take finance. So if you think that your current financial position is in some way or shape or form lacking, there's a few questions which you can ask yourself. We can't do this for you. We're on our own path. I would say, without a shadow of a doubt, I've moved beyond ever worrying about the financial side of life. And that's not to say that we have enough to feed the 5,000 financially right now. We don't. But I don't have any fear around that at all.
But why is that?
Right.
Because I'm sure a lot of us do still have that fear.
So let's go into that. So before we get into the core of that, because it's easy for me to just spurt out and say, well, your source of supply is not in the physical amount of money. It's not in your job. That has nothing to do with the provision for your supply. So
except we all need money to live on this planet.
Hold on. Yeah. But the key, as we talked about, and we can speak to this with so many examples of it in our life that it's absolutely true. As taught by the mystics, and especially Yeshua, Jesus, he says in the Bible, to paraphrase, take no thought for your life, take no thought for your finances, take no thought for your food, take no thought for your clothes. Now that sounds very easy, but how do we do that? So mix the two things that I just said in together, then just put that to one side. So let's start to ask a couple of questions. Do you believe that your well-being is tied to your bank account? Do you believe that? Do you believe that your safety, maybe your housing situation, maybe your health, maybe your medication or something like that, do you believe that your safety is anchored to your bank account? I'm not going to answer that question for you. You have to. That's the first question. And the second question is, because I know that you know better, you know that's not true, because if you're watching this, you have a spiritual lean in some degree, so you're on the spiritual path. You know that you are God, but you're not believing or knowing that at this time because you still have that fear, if that is the case. Okay, that you can't argue with me on that, you just told me. So that's okay. So the next question is if you know that your bank account, the amount of money you have does not equal your finance, it does not equal your level of safety and security. Finance has got nothing to do with it. Is how do I move from where I'm at with my fear to the truth? How do I do that? And that really is going to be unlocked a little bit in these shows for sure. I'm not going to give you an answer right now, but the core of it is that you believe that you're in control of providing for yourself. Now that may be the case in the material world, but we're moving beyond that. And the key is to move beyond mind, to move beyond the mental powers in your life and allow the divine to move through you. And you're going to have to practice this, and we're not going to go, that's going to be more in other shows. We'll have some more practical elements. We've got a meditation tonight, which will actually tune into that a little bit. My part will. But you're going to have to move from the mental mind to not my will, but thine, to allowing the hand to steward you, to allow God to move through you. And I know that you know that because you'll already answer before I've answered. You know that, but you're not doing it yet. And you know you're not doing it because you still have that fear. You haven't yet let go. And you have to believe it to see it. You will not see it, then believe it in this world. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good reminder because there's such a jump from intellectually knowing and understanding something to truly believing it and having faith in it. And I think as much of us like to believe that, we have faith and knowing that we will be provided for. I think there's still that underlying hamster wheel. Our thoughts, our mental mind is still like, okay, I have to take action and I have to figure this out and I have to do more. And like we actually still take so much responsibility for that.
Indeed, yeah.
Even though we're trying to tell ourselves that we just like live by grace and that we will be prepared for, taken care of. But then we're like, oh, no, I have to take care of this and I have to take care of that. And it's really difficult. I think so many of us are living in the two worlds where we are very much aware of this spiritual path and something greater than us, but we're also still very stuck in our humanness and our patterns. And, this is the appearance and this is what we see and this is what we have to do and this is how it's always been. So it's very hard to kind of walk in between these two worlds. And I know that there's a lot of people talking about health in the chat. And I know for me, myself, I have my own limiting beliefs and fears that I thought of. Some of the things that come up for me all the time is like that very thing that like I'm not doing enough or that I'm not enough. And it's just to try to, be more or attain more. And so in turn, we can give more and do more. But again, I place these limitations on myself. One of my fears is, loss, losing you, my partner. I think I get a lot of security from having you in my life. Again, financial security and just like that fear of not being alone, that's met having you in my life, but knowing that could be taken away is obviously a fear. And just something major will happen that will disrupt our way of life. Something, again, like take COVID, for example, how all of a sudden, we have all these freedoms and now they're taken away and people are treating you incredibly differently because you don't want to just go along to get along. I think there are still a lot of fears that are coming up, and that's why we are in this together. And we can't just say one thing and expect everybody to just be like, oh, okay, cool, I get it now. I certainly can only speak for myself, but I'm not just like, it hasn't clicked for me yet. It was funny earlier because I was asking David, well, what are your fears and limiting beliefs? And we had a laugh because you said you don't have any.
No, and that can sound very arrogant and on first appearance, but it's getting into Joel's work specifically now over the last 2 years and the last few months have really activated a number of things. Those of you who are new to this work, we're going to get into the slideshow in a minute. We did outline the first 4 stages of activating the Christ bridge, which is the bridge from where you are in the material world to your monad, your soul, allowing the soul infusion or entry into the fourth density consciousness, anchoring that, as was the way with Jeshua, with Jesus at the time of his resurrection. In fact, he moved into that consciousness. That was the final initiation, as we've spoken about. And the bridge is built brick by brick. And so one of the first stages is literally you're going to have to immerse your mind with truth night and day. And what we've chosen to do with Joel Goldsmith's teachings is use Christian Bible scripture, but interpret it in a whole different way. And it's become very, very useful. And that was one of the first stages to rebuilding the neural pathways, because it is a physical change that you go through as a biological change in your brain because we're so hardwired. Now, consciousness is affecting that. And consciousness is driving that. Consciousness governs matter, as we know. But we can't just open the door to consciousness. It's very, very challenging because we don't know how to do that. So we have to build it through mental powers first until the doors have been opened, the bricks have been built, and consciousness flows through fully. And so I would highly encourage you to start getting into Joel's work, which I'll bring up the slideshow. We'll get into the slideshow. And it's the first slide we go into here. These are Joel's, the first 6 books that we recommend. Let's maybe bring up that there. From left to right that we recommend you start getting into to really help you unlock the things we're talking about, because we can talk about it, but it doesn't matter. You've got to go and activate it. And that's going to take you doing the work, as you know. So number 1 is the infinite way. We recommend you start with this. This is our journey, how we began this. You can do it in whatever order you want. This is a recommendation. Number 2, the art of meditation. Number 3, the art of spiritual healing. Sorry, it's quite small on the screen for me. Number 4, living the infinite way. Number 5, practicing the presence. And number 6, the thunder of silence, which we've got a little passage from today. And all the links for these books are you can get them on Amazon. They're not expensive. Are in the description if you're coming from the Sunflower Life official YouTube channel. I highly recommend, if it was me, I would suggest you go and pick up all 6 books tomorrow and begin. And I'm having to read each book 3 or 4 times, and I'm extracting so much more information out as I do. Now, Joel's got 51 books, which have been mostly transcribed from his lectures. And if you want to get into the audio library of this, go to joelgoldsmithstreaming.com. It's there on the top above the books on the screen. www, and also in the description, www.joelgoldsmithstreaming.com. About $5 a month. We don't get any money from that. That goes to Acropolis or whoever is managing it. But get into Joel's works pronto, guys.
I love some of the comments. Kelly, the truth will set you free. That is exactly it. And that's why we're doing these shows. And that's why we're recommending these books, because as David mentioned, it's just starting with embedding that truth in our consciousness. And the more that we read it, the more that we hear it, the more we become familiar with the truth, the more it seeps into our consciousness. And it's then able to go from the intellectual understanding of the truth to really knowing that truth in our consciousness. And that's what we talk about when we say the realization of truth in our consciousness and the realization of God in our consciousness. And this is all just about remembering who we really are. And there's no right or wrong way. That's, again, what we're going to be talking about tonight, is kind of just moving above duality, above the pair of opposites, above good and evil, and all of those things. That's what we really want to get into with the show. But we do understand that there's people all over the place, and we're all starting at different places. And, we have people like David who have transcended a lot of these fears. We have people like myself who still have fear, but we're doing a lot of that work to transcend that and move through that. And, these books have just been a huge tool and a huge helper for us along the way. There's another comment there. It's getting harder to visit with friends unless it has some kind of spiritual conversation in it. I think David
Very true. Yeah.
I think David can really relate to that. I'm constantly bringing over friends and family from my human life and my past, and I feel very attached, and I feel like a lot of these relationships are in my life for a reason. And it's, sometimes it's for us to be the light, and it's for us to anchor the light. But I know you struggle just in having conversations that can't be at that level that you want them to be. And also, it's part of you not being able to shine through in your authentic and true self. But I just feel like it's so important to hold space for everybody on every level. And that's why we're talking about stage 1 all the way up to people who've achieved ascension. There's a place for all of us, and we're all exactly where we need to be on this journey. So I think that maybe we can go into what we wanted to talk about was kind of a disclaimer. We don't want to downplay anything that anybody is going through at this time. I know that there's a lot of people that feel like they're doing a lot of shadow work, and I know that they feel like they have this shadow aspect of self, and a lot of time that comes from just having a lot of trauma or maybe grief or loss. So there's people who have, lost their spouse, or there's people who have lost a child. And that's just a really heavy burden to carry. I think that people felt like maybe they were this person before, and then they had a really bad experience, and then it's really hard for them to get back to that person that they were before, because they're constantly just living in this place of grief and pain and anger and sadness, and it keeps them kind of in the dark. So, we all have trauma. We all have things that have happened to us in the past. We all have experienced loss. And those are all very real experiences. So when we talk about, moving through darkness or moving through duality, or only focusing on the good and that God is the only power and darkness has no power, that's not to take away from anybody. That's not to say that those things didn't happen, or they didn't exist, or they didn't cause you to feel some type of way. It's absolutely all valid. So this is just meant to be a very open conversation, and it's just certainly not to downplay anything that anybody's gone through.
Yeah, let me just jump in there. And I think we had a comment or two from the last show, and
I want to say
go on. Okay.
I just want to say the comment. Yeah. Okay. So there was a comment from our last show, and it basically said that it seems like you two are smooth sailing into the density of love, completely denying the other part of creation. But you have to experience both sides before you make the choice. There will be no ascension for you until you do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting comment, and there's nothing really to say on that. I mean, the shadow side of things wasn't part of creation. We've created that. By the way, it's all through human mind that has created that. But anyway, I wanted to say that there is sort of a bit of a trap, a bit of a hurdle in the shadow work that a lot of spiritual teachers teach, a lot of things that spiritual people go through, because the reason why you're doing the shadow work, quite often it becomes this egotistical thing where, oh no, I'm in this shadow work phase. And before you realize that you're actually there for a few years without actually having done the work to move through it, it only really needs to take you a few months to move through something. Now, everyone's different, so I'll just say everyone's has their own journey, of course. But when you've anchored enough intellectual and knowingness spiritually, it does not need to take you years and years and years to get through difficult trauma. And I can definitely speak to that, because I remember when Jen, my first wife, she passed away in front of me, 2017, and a very, very difficult time, of course. We've been married for together 5 years, and lived a lot of life, but she made a transition, and it was, very challenging to witness and be part of that. But it didn't take me years and years to get through. I was very, very intentional about trying to move through that. Not for the first 2 or 3 months, because it does kind of knock you out a bit. But I had a big team of people who were relying on me, and I made the conscious choice, no, I've got to move through this. So I developed a system to move through that. And I'm not going to get into that system today. But one of the big things that I did was to know that I moved through something, was to revisit the memories of things, or revisit the places which produced very difficult human emotions, right? The negative human emotions, whether it's regret, anger, sadness, or whatever it will be. And I made a choice to allow it to move through me, to sit with it until the bubble burst. And you know when you've moved through a trauma because you revisit the memory or the situation in your mind and you don't revisit the trauma. Now everyone's different with how long that takes. But if you're intentional about it, it does not have to take long. And I remember several months later, about 6-7 months later of sort of coming through that, I would encounter people out in the world, and I remember one lady, for example, whose father had passed away. And I was in a coffee shop and we just got chatting, as you do. And she was in her sort of early 40s. And of course, I was presented with so many people on a weekly basis that were going through some kind of a grief, being presented to share however I could, to assist and serve, of course, as we do. And pretty much every time, this lady in particular, I was sharing, I was kind of excited for her because this had happened like almost 20 years ago in her life. And I was like, what, 20 years? Like, it does not need to take you that, I didn't say this to her, but I was thinking, wow, it does not need to take you that long to move through a trauma. And as we got talking, and as I got asking her questions, trauma wasn't holding her anywhere. She was holding on to trauma. And when I was sharing some of the things, I could hear her higher self almost in the background saying, no, not ready, not ready, not ready. And it's like she was just not ready to move through it. And of course, there has to be a readiness to move through this trauma before you do, which is why the shadow work that we talk about, as I bring it back up on screen, is only recommended that you approach it when it approaches you, when you're ready to do that. Because when it approaches you, it doesn't need to take that long. It really doesn't, especially not if you have a good, strong spiritual foundation. And so when people say things like, oh, you guys are missing the shadow part, no, we've just gone through that. At least I can speak for myself. I've gone through a lot of that in my life. That's just one occurrence I talked about with my first wife, Jen. There's been many, many situations. And so the way that you know you've moved through a trauma is you revisit the situation in your mind. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't produce, and try and approach it from a place of neutrality, if it doesn't produce an instant emotion, then you know you've at least you've got through it for the most part. You've got through that trauma because it doesn't reappear in your psyche.
Yes, honey, thank you so much for sharing, because I'm not sure how many people on here know that you went through that experience with your first wife passing on and transitioning. And I know that was a big part of your story, and having to sit in a hospital and be there every day. And, that's a lot of soul searching that you do when you go through an experience like that. But, so many people say that with grief or loss, you never really get over it. Like, there's always going to be a part of you that's still missing that piece. And, that's, again, I think you said it pretty clear. They're just not ready. And it's because they're still choosing to hold on to that piece.
Yeah.
They're not ready to get through it. They're not ready to.
A lot of people have attached shadow work and trauma to their identity. Oh, it's part of who I am. No, it has nothing to do with who you are. It's just a fragment of your ego that's you've got that locked into your identity. That's not who you are at all. You're pure consciousness. You're an extension of God, which has none of that.
So going back to that comment, the whole comment was, in the law of one, the fourth density is where you'll be able to make a choice. Furthermore, you two are smooth sailing into the density of love, completely denying the other part of creation. but you have to experience both sides before you make that choice. No ascension for you until you do that. Like you said, I also found this comment very interesting because we all have trauma, and in the past, we have all experienced grief and suffering and loss. And I don't think it's up to anybody to exclaim or make a comment that we haven't experienced both sides already, or we haven't had many dark nights of the soul already, because again, a lot of people don't know the personal experiences that we have gone through or the work that we have gone through. Obviously, that was a huge process for you, even though you went through it in a short period of time. Like, you made work of it and you took responsibility over not letting it ruin the rest of your life and still being able to, move forward. And I'm sure a lot of that was a huge catalyst for your spiritual path and your awakening. So it really is crucial to move through our traumas and to grieve our pain and kind of embrace that humanness. We all have these experiences, and we're certainly not trying to make light of them by any means, but really just find appreciation for them in making us who we are. And if you are still going through stuff currently and, holding on to a lot of those attachments or the past or the experiences that happened, and you still feel like you have a lot of shadow work to do, then do it. Do it, and do it first, because I'm not saying that it will, but it can hold you back on your spiritual path as you're trying to move forward and ascend. These things can come up and be huge distractions, and they can hold you back. So I know, like myself, I've done a lot of counseling and psychology and worked through things. Do we ever get through everything? I don't know. Like, things still come up for me all the time, and it's just like peeling back the layers of an onion. You think, oh, I've healed from that trauma, and then all of a sudden next week it's right there, the same insecurities or the same unworthiness. It's like coming back up. But with doing the work and with getting help and with talking about things, it does get easier and easier. And I think that we grow a lot and we learn a lot. And because I've taken grief recovery and learned a lot about loss and coping with that kind of stuff, now when I have those fears come up, I can move through them really quickly because I have a lot of tools to move through them really quickly. So, we do obviously want to be here as a resource for people. Don't hesitate to reach out if you're going through some things. We both have a lot of resources when it comes to loss and grieving. So if you guys feel stuck, you can absolutely always reach out to us. But we both feel like we're in a really good place now. We're centered and balanced and feeling really good about life and feeling like we're in a good space to talk about this stuff and move forward on our spiritual path. So, we just want to thank everybody for their comments. But we feel like we're at that place now where we have made the choice. And yes, fourth density, again, in the law of one, and as he brought up and said, it is a choice. And we've talked about that too, because you can still, if you've read the law of one, and when you're in the fourth density, it said you can be fourth density positively polarized or fourth density negatively polarized. So I know we did a big show on fourth density, and we did say that, it's kind of on the path to ascension, but you can still discover, spirituality and move beyond the mental mind and the material way of thinking. And you can use that again in a negatively polarized kind of way. So That's not what we're talking about. And again, that's why I believe so strongly that when Jesus, Yeshua, was going through the resurrection and was able to, come back after dying, that was his ascension into the fifth density. And I don't think that you can move beyond the physical form and move on to an ascended state if you are choosing to be fourth density negative. The choice point is, choosing the path of God. And I think that we can make that choice in the third density physical, and we can make that choice here and now, because what is the one thing we all have? Free will choice. Yeah. Which brings us to our next slide.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's bring that up. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to have to train yourself to use the divine mind, because up until a large part of when you actually make the full switch, and I have not made the full switch yet, but I feel like I'm getting quite close. Your ego literally just grabs you and pulls you back into third or very first level, fourth density thinking, where there is the belief in two powers, where there is a belief in good and evil. And we're going to jump into that in just a second here. But the whole free will thing has actually, because we haven't been using divine mind, has perpetrated an extended duality, because it's all about, your freedom and your free will and what you want to do and what you want to own. And there's some validity to that to some degree. But again, as we talked about with manifestation, when you're living your life just using the mental mind, as good as your intentions are, you generally end up doing things just for you. Now, that's quite a bold statement, and there's some extensions and some expansions to that, serving others, etc. But I mean, even now in the work that we're doing in the place that I'm at, I still do a lot of stuff, as I realize, for me. And it's getting to a point more and more where I just don't need anything. And so I'm transitioning more to whatever we do is for other people. And that's why, when you have other people, about a year ago or a year and a bit ago, I really didn't like people coming into our space and then people stay over and stuff. But now, because I'm in such surrender to the divine plan and activating the divine mind more and more, it's like, well, they're obviously coming here to be in our space for us, for me, for us to serve them. And I don't need space for peace. I don't need quiet for peace. That's not where any of these things come from. They come from the activation of the divine mind and being within, and being not my peace. There is a peace, be still, and that peace is consciousness.
Yeah, so when we think about free will, then it is still very much from that kind of third density material mental mind, because again, free will, what is it? It's a choice, and you always have the choice to do good or to do evil. So in the realm of the physical world that we all live in, it's a very material world full of appearances, and all the appearances that we see, again, we label as either good or evil, good or bad, light or darkness, war or peace, abundance or lack. Like, we're constantly looking at the appearance of what we see and feel with our senses, and we're labeling them with our mental mind, good or bad, evil, darkness, lack, limitation, all of the pair of opposites. Everything that we see and experience here is the realm of duality, is the pair of opposites. So because that is the appearance, it's very hard to move beyond the appearance. And that is really what we want to be able to get into, probably not part 1 today, but part 2 on April 16th. We're really going to get into moving beyond the appearance of opposites and how to do that. And again, it's not an act of the mental mind. This is really something that you can only do through spirit, because you have to be able to see beyond the appearance. So, of course, I have my little brother coming to visit this week, and he's just a young buck. He's like 20 years old. So, of course, he's just starting to dig down the rabbit hole, and he's just starting to ask a bunch of questions. Like, oh my God, he brought up adrenochrome the other day, and we were having a conversation about God, and I was trying to explain, that we're all children of God, and we all have God in us and inside of us, and every single person and being and rock and mineral and animal on this whole human plane and anything of form that has consciousness is of God and was created in the image and likeness of God. And he couldn't wrap his head around what I was saying because he couldn't see through the appearance. All he could see was the evil and the destruction and children being abducted and used for horrible things. And, how can God be in those people? Like, what if God is present, then why is God not stopping the war? Or if God is only good, then how can God be doing these evil things, right? But the thing is it's not God doing these things at all. We're not operating in the world of spirit. We're not operating in God's kingdom. We're operating in human form, where we have free will choice to be, good or evil. Did you have something to add?
Yeah, I'm going to read this passage from the Thunder of Silence here, because I think it's very good.
Okay.
And it's very difficult for people to understand that God is not operating in the human world. Now, there are some contradicting elements to that. For example, God is operating in your physical body right now. The spark of God is operating in your physical body. That's true. But when it comes to doing good or doing bad, God is not functioning in the human world. Now, we can allow God to move through us, but we cannot use God power for our good. And it's very difficult for, I manifested that. Well, you can still use in the magnetic universe the mental powers to manifest things. But the problem is, as we spoke about last week, is they can be used for good or bad. So let me just read this paragraph. I might just do a quick screen share.
And this is where the Joel teachings and the Joel books are really going to help bridge the gap, because we can only explain so much. And of course, we're going to leave out gaps because we have our own understanding of the readings and the teachings. But it's really great for you guys if you also get the books, because then you'll be getting all that information as well, and not just kind of secondhand. We do the best explaining that we can, but we love sharing the actual words the way that Joel put them, because he puts it so eloquently. So David's got his passage here.
Let me just read this, and maybe just close your eyes if you feel called to, and listen to some of these words here, and I will sort of scroll through. We'll begin up here. It was in meditation while pondering this that the question came to my mind: does this mean that what man is searching for is a greater power to do something to these other powers? This is talking about the two powers. Is it possible that there is a spiritual force which will destroy material power and supplant it, And in the event that such a spiritual force might be discovered, is there a possibility that some evils may develop in its use, so that ultimately the world will have to still find another power with which to overcome the spiritual power? What is the limit? Where does it all stop? I knew that wherever the power of any kind has been used, there have always been the possibility and the potentiality of its being used for either good or evil. How can this be, was the question I asked in my meditation. Is in a God-ordained world, supposedly, is it possible that God power can be used for both good and evil? Quick as a flash, the question answered itself. No. If you ever discover what God power is, you will learn that it has no opposite and no opposition. It cannot be used for good, it cannot be used for evil. It can only remain the creative, maintaining and sustaining power of good. A power which cannot be used. God power cannot be used. It can use us, but it cannot be used by us. That is the power the world awaits, a power which will prove to be no power, a power that no one can use, but that only God itself can express, activate, and motivate. It became very clear to me that as long as there is a belief in two powers, there will be some people who will use power for good, and other people who will use it for evil. But inasmuch as inertia prevents most members of the human family from taking a positive stand for good, the evil will usually predominate. When power rested primarily on material force, there were both good and bad material forces operating. Then came the era when mental power, as we talked about, was in preponderance, and for a short while it was a good era, during which time mental power was used for healing and regeneration. But it was not long before it was discovered that mental power could be used for evil purposes as well as for good. Today the world, as always, is a world of both material and mental forces. The challenge is to go beyond the use of any force or power to a state of no power. I'll just read a little bit more. For every bit of good power in the physical or mental realm that can be brought to bear in any situation, somebody in this world is going to discover how to use a corresponding amount of evil power. There's a lot of talk right now about what they are doing at the eclipse. We'll maybe touch on that in a second. This is touching on this. Good against evil. The ultimate solution to this battle of opposing forces is the ability to rise to God power, which is not good power, but a creative, maintaining and sustaining power to rise to a dimension of life in which there is no power, that is, no power that can be used. In a God-created universe, the secret of life is no power. When we come to the place of no power can operate against us, in us, or through us. That puts us in a very humble position, where much as we may dislike doing it, we have to acknowledge, as Jesus did, I can of my own self do nothing. That is the goal of this message, to come to a place where we do not pay lip service to the statement, I can of my own self do nothing, but where we demonstrate that it is actually true, and let whatever it is that is the power of God, the no power, assert itself and do the work. Just finally, there is a second part of this principle which is of equal importance and a natural corollary of the first part. I have stated that men have always sought for a power to overcome other powers, but they have also sought for something more than that. They have sought for a God who would give them things, food, clothing, housing, money. Because the Master knew that, talking about Jesus, he cautioned his followers, take no thought for your life, what you shall eat, or what you shall drink, nor yet for your body, what you shall put on. He knew that long before his day, men had been seeking a God to give them food, clothing, housing, companionship, supply, good crops, good hunting, and good fishing. And even through his command was that they stop seeking after these things. 2,000 years later, the world still goes to church to pray for the very things that the New Testament admonishes it not to pray for. Men are still seeking a God to give them things and failing, just as they failed to find a God who would be an insuperable power to destroy their enemies. Final little paragraph here. When we give up seeking the power of God, we shall find that the no power which brings harmony into our lives. When we give up seeking things of God, we shall receive the greatest gift, God itself. We shall receive God in consciousness, in our inner sanctuary or temple, in that secret place of the Most High. I was talking about stillness. This is touching on that, which is found in no other place than within ourselves. The great lesson to be learned is that the goal of God realization, and that not for any purpose. The great lesson to be learned is that the goal is God realization and not for any purpose. To those who are seeking, should I not have health? Or should I not have abundant supply? My answer is, I suppose so. I suppose so because the grace of God supplies us abundantly with everything of which we have need, even in what appears to be this human scene. But we do not have any power to get these things from God. When we have the actual conscious realization of God, pain, lack, and limitation disappear. So I'll just stop there, and let's just stop my screen sharing here and come back.
Okay, so the real secret to what David kind of covered there is really to just know God and to know what God's function is, because so many people pray to God to get things or to change the appearance of something that is evil into something good, or to change lack into abundance. They're always praying to God to get something. But to really know God, and what these books are so good at teaching us, is to just really understand and know the nature of what God is. And that's the answer. God is. God's function is to just maintain and sustain God's kingdom, which is always harmonious, which is always just, it's that divine spark of life force energy that, like you say, it's just working behind the scenes. It's just constantly at work to maintain harmony. You see it in nature. You see it in the function of our bodies. It's just to maintain and sustain harmony. And God doesn't get involved in human problems.
No.
Or the human world at all. So we've left the kingdom of God the moment that we chose the belief in two powers. The moment that we chose in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve chose with their free will choice to eat from the tree of good and evil. They chose temptation. They chose to believe in two powers, the knowledge of good and evil, the belief in good and evil. And ever since then, we have fallen from the kingdom of God, knowing God and being so connected to God, to this complete separation and world of duality where everything we see is dualistic, equal and opposite. Everything is of good and evil. We are completely disconnected from spirit, from source, from God, and we just live in this world of appearance of good and evil. But somebody said it in the comments. It's all illusion. It is all appearance. It is all illusion. And the truth is the spirit, God, the maintaining and sustaining infinite, invisible energy, interworkings behind everything. You know, if you break down anything of form, what is it made of? Atoms. What are atoms made of? Protons, neutrons, electrons. What are those made of? Literally nothing. It is just energy vibrating. It's just frequency. It's energy, vibrations, and frequency. There's nothing there. There's nothing physical. Nothing is here. It's all spirit. It's all that God created, maintaining, sustaining principle of life that is behind everything. Another word for that is consciousness. Consciousness creates form. Anytime that we're operating out of our humanness, out of our human nature, we're operating from the physical or the mental. And both of those things we know are not of God because they can be used for both good and evil. And that is what we experience in the 3D, the physical, the mental realm is good and evil. So in order to rise above that, we really need to move beyond appearances, and we need to realize that we do not have to, and we cannot pray to God to get anything, because that's not the nature of God. The nature of God just is. He's just God is just doing the God thing and just making life happen. And it's not going to interfere with our human problems. If we want to change anything about what we experience in the world of form, we can only change that deep within our consciousness. And so within as without, the outer appearance of our experience will then reflect our inner consciousness, and that will change.
Yeah. So if you want to move beyond the two powers, so the lack and limitation, good and evil, high and low, all these things that have plagued humanity for as long as time has been in the human world. And you know this is true because there has always been ecosystems in the world. There's always been grass, there's always been sky, there's always been oxygen, there's always been trees, there's always been earth, there's always been life, because God governs that kingdom and those laws operate harmoniously. Now, there have been cycles of that, and I'm sure humanity has played its role, or at least conscious beings have played their role in causing things to take left and right turns, and that's fine. But humanity has risen and fallen across time. Every single time there's been a rise, there's been a fall. There's been many iterations of humanity, and we're in one now, to make sure that there isn't another fall, and there isn't going to be. And the way that we do that is by ascending, of course, as we all know. And the only way you ascend, in my view, is to follow the master, follow Jesus, follow the masters, and that is to build your relationship with the divine, with the inner world. And, religions get sort of close to it, but if you're praying for God to destroy your enemies, which most religious people do, well, you just don't understand God. And most people have an intellectual understanding of a relationship with God, but they haven't actually built a relationship with God yet. The vast majority of people. And I think we are the same way until we really got serious about, okay, well, let's understand that and let's start practicing it. Most people use God like they know God, like a distant auntie they'd never spent any time with. And if you don't spend time with a human being, for example, you're never going to build a relationship with them. And God is spirit, not a human being, but it's the same principle. Unless you spend time physically in meditation developing a relationship with God, it will only ever be an intellectual concept. The two powers will be in existence in your life. You will be affected by material law, and you'll never move into God governance. And a lot of people are not ready for that because it requires an elevation out of the human world, out of humanhood, or through humanhood, I should say. And that's fine. Those people will be given the opportunity to move into that next realm whenever they will. But there are a portion of people who will, and will move into that. And we don't really truly know how that's going to look, but it is, the time of duality is ending for a lot of people, but I don't believe it will end for everyone. Some people think that the ascension is for everyone. I don't personally see that without the intervention of some galactic wave of some kind that is a triggering event, which may well happen, but I see it all being done individually. And those who are ready to move into a new density will be able to do that. And those who are not will carry on. That's fine. And they'll move in when they're ready.
Yeah, so as long as there's a physical world and earth and humans, there's always going to be duality. There's always going to be two powers. And really the only way to ascend and to leave this plane is to find God and and realize the truth that, God is the only power. And it's really us with our beliefs that are creating all of this other side. And one of the interesting points that I think we'll probably touch on next week is that it's not just the appearance of evil that we need to move beyond. It's also the appearance of good. Because just as much as, health can turn into, sickness can turn into health, health can also turn into sickness. Like, it goes both ways. Just because something may appear good today doesn't mean it's not going to be evil tomorrow.
Yeah.
So everything in this realm of good and evil is very temporary, and it's always changing. And we're kind of just bouncing back and forth between one side and the other. And, as much as we pray for, darkness to be replaced by light and evil to be replaced by good, the good is just as temporary, and it's the same thing. It's just an appearance. So we need to be able to also move beyond the appearance of this good humanhood and recognize that, God is. Like, it just is. And we have to stop trying to change everything and just live in that divine flow and find that harmony and recognize that there is this maintaining and sustaining force, within us, and everything is going to flow out from us and from our consciousness. So not to put too much emphasis on anything of appearance. And that can be the really challenging part. And I don't have too much prepared about that because I do believe we'll go deeper into that into next week's show, because we're already past the hour point.
Just
here.
hit the hour. I'm ready for the meditation.
Yeah, so I think that we should definitely move into the meditation portion of our night. But we hope you guys join us next week for part 2, where we continue this discussion and we go a lot deeper into the two powers. We just wanted to lay that kind of intellectual foundation and understanding and disclaimers and all of that we're not saying that it's not real. It's absolutely real, and it's always going to be here as long as we exist on the human plane. It's always going to be here. But I think that's why the scripture said, like, what is it? One day every knee will bend to God. And it's because that's why we're here. We're all here to remember who we are. And the only way to get out of this incarnation circle of keep on coming back to this physical earth school, this physical realm, is to ascend. And the way that we do that is by remembering who we are, by remembering the truth, and by living that truth.
Yeah. And you got to pick up the books, guys. You got to pick up the books and start going deep into this work, because we can talk about the Okanagan Valley where we are all we want to. We can sing its praises and even show you pictures, but you have to experience it. You have to come down and experience the life and really talk to the people, experience the culture, experience the life. The same with any place. I'm just using this as an example. And the same is true with this work. You're going to have to get your hands dirty, because if you don't, these will just remain intellectual concepts for you. And I think, I don't know what the numbers will be. In my view, if you take 4 corners of the world, being a globe, if you believe the world is a globe, if you don't, I can't really help you. But just take 4 people on every continent of the globe, if you look at a globe. If 4 of those people achieved Christhood in a civilized place in the whole world would shift radically. Just 4 people. maybe even just 2 people, but let's just take 4. So there's, food for thought. We do not need the masses to really get this, to really shift the planet. We just don't. And if you're listening to this, my guess is that you could be one of those people. I don't know. It's up to you. It's not the chosen few. It's the few who choose.
Yes, we definitely have some exciting stuff coming up for everybody on the eclipse meditation, the solar eclipse meditation. David has a new website. Hopefully, we're going to be launching it. Somebody asked in the chat a while back if you were the one who makes the alien videos. So yes, David is absolutely the face behind the GFL station and the channeled messages that come through. And he's had tons of people reach out who channel other beings. So eventually it might be really exciting to get a lot more new beings and other beings up, and I think you're gonna do that. But
we'll talk. We'll do GFL stuff.
Yeah.
At a later date. It's a whole different.
But I'm hoping. I was just gonna say I'm hoping we get to launch that website on April 8th. Maybe.
I think maybe even
Fingers
before then.
crossed.
Yeah, maybe even before the next few days here.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we should definitely have some new and exciting things to talk about on the eclipse meditation. But I think tonight we'll get into our short meditation. So let's just make a note of the time. Ooh, 111. 1 hour and 11 minutes. So we can maybe even put that in the chat if anybody just wants to hop on to do the meditation.
Yeah, so let's kind of get started in that, guys. I'm layering in some music here. If you can let me know how my voice and our voices are with this level of music, I'll wait for you to comment in the live chat. We will get into this. As many of you know, we do our meditation in 2 parts. Won't be too long. Won't be as long as our normal meditations for sure. Kelly begins and then I finish off. So it'll be in 2 parts. But just let us know how the audio balance is with the music and my voice, and we will get cracking here. I'll wait for you to comment. Sounds great. Good level of sound. Sounds good. Sounds amazing. Okay, well, let's get cracking, guys. Let's get cracking. I will introduce us here and then Kelly will pick up. So, on our journey back to oneness, we're already one. Let us set our intention tonight to go a level deeper with oneness, a level deeper with connecting to the Creator, to strengthen our relationship, to move one step closer to releasing the belief in 2 powers, to release and trust. So close your eyes, take 2 or 3 deep breaths, and let your thoughts fall away. Breathing in a remembrance of the divine, breathing out any thoughts or tension not currently serving you. Let it all go. Surrender, surrender. And let us begin.
Family of light, hello and welcome to this powerful day where the 4444 portal is active and open, helping us to break free and into the unknown. Great change is here, and each day we are stepping further into our power and the infinite possibilities that await us. Each and every day now, we are receiving more and more light, more high frequency energy that is here to propel us out of our old patterns and beliefs and into new ways of being, living, and doing. Change is taking place in our physical world, and that change first begins with us and our consciousness. It is very important that we keep realigning ourselves and allowing ourselves to shift so that we can continue to be open to give and receive all of the love light that is coming in and moving forth through us. With each activation comes with it a command to release and let go of all the things that may be holding us back. And now is no different. We are being asked to clear from our lives anything that is not in alignment with our highest self. The 4444 gateway is urging us to peruse our visions, pressing us on and into the next level of our ascensions. This is another transformational passageway. And as we come out on the other side, we will not be the same versions of ourselves that we were yesterday. We are simply getting closer now, getting closer and closer to remembering who we really are. We are that which we are seeking. We are. Regardless of the trials and tribulations that face us on our human way, our recourse is to remember consciously that we are children of God. The truth is being revealed to us, and it is up to us to make that truth a part of our very being. This is what practicing the presence is all about. And soon it will become a second nature to us, where we will hardly draw a breath without realizing that if it wasn't for the grace of God, we could not draw it. The body itself does not breathe. The body itself does not stand on its feet. For a body, separate and apart from consciousness, collapses and falls down. When the full significance and conscious realization of the function of spirit within us takes place, we will begin to understand how this presence and power that our consciousness is the true mediator between God and humankind. The art of meditation is how we connect and commune with God. So be still and know that at the center of you is God. And therefore, you live by grace and divine inheritance.
So let us enter into the last half of tonight's meditation, remembering our intentions to release and to trust. Let us embark on a mystical journey where the essence of surrender and the realization of our true sustenance blend seamlessly. So allow your breath to guide you to a deeper, tranquil place within, a sacred place, a place where the external desires and your perceived limitations will dissolve tonight into the flow of a greater realization. Feel the air filling your lungs as you breathe, carrying with it the essence of life, of spirit. And exhaling any releasing any useless tensions, any demands of the physical realm that you have put on yourself. Going a level deeper than we have before, becoming more attuned to the whispers of the universe. So let us go on a journey together now. I invite you to bring your awareness to the space between your eyes, just by the bridge of the nose. Now, just behind the bridge of the nose, a doorway without a door is visible. It's glowing with golden white light. And when you're ready, journey through. This is the celestial gateway. As you journey through, a great flash of light transports you instantly to a new pyramid of light. Only this time, you're outside of the pyramid of light, but you can see its giant crystalline structure going up for miles and miles, stretching out for miles and miles. It is a giant structure. But you're standing in a beautiful meadow. There's a path in front of you which leads to the banks of a magnificent river, crystal clear. As you walk up to one of the banks, you notice the water is flowing with purpose and grace, more than you've ever noticed a river flowing before. Its surface is reflecting the myriads of colors of the sky. You realize this river is not just a body of water, it is a symbol of the eternal flow of spirit. An unseen force that nourishes and sustains all things. As you stare deep into its waters, you understand that it's time to embrace surrender. As you stand by the river now, you hear the murmur of water against the banks, a soothing symphony that speaks of letting go. Suddenly a voice, gentle and calm as the breeze, speaks. Mankind shall not live by bread alone, it says, as a gentle warm breeze rustles some leaves. A reminder that our true essence, your true essence, was not sustained by the material, but by the invisible, the eternal. So now, as these words sink into your consciousness, it's it's time to release into the flow. So visualize every thought of need, every desire that you have for the external things. Whether it's people, places, possessions, finances, imagine them all. But imagine them as leaves that you hold in your hands now. One by one, you look at each leaf. Now, one by one, gently place them on the surface of the river. Watch as they are carried away by the current gracefully, moving from your grasp into the embrace of the infinite. With each leaf released, feel a little bit lighter, more at peace, and entrusting your desires to the flow of God, the infinite invisible. When you have done this and when you are ready, allow yourself to sit on one of the banks of the river. The waters whispering ancient truths to you. Understand that in the same way you need not command the river to flow, you need not tell the divine what you need, or attempt to shape the world to your will. The river, the infinite invisible, knows its course. So too does the spirit within you know its path. So, beloved one, it is time to surrender to the infinite. And as you sit in this moment of profound peace, in this idyllic setting, speak to the divine, not with words of want or wishes for the visible things, but with a heart open to the grace of the unseen. To yourself and to the infinite invisible, to God now, say, I place my life, I place my being into your flow. Reveal to me now not my desires, but your will, your essence. It is a time for release and trust. So as you breathe now by the river, feel a release of any burdens you have, any things you needed to plan or have come to you in your life at a certain time or in a certain way. Just release it all now and trust. And as you sit there, remember, the river continues to flow within you, a constant reminder that you are sustained, not by the material things in any way, but by the eternal flow of spirit. Release and trust. Let us spend 60 seconds releasing and trusting within. Now, when you're ready, let us start to journey back from the river. It's encouraged that you go here as often as you need to release and to trust when things perhaps are feeling a little bit overwhelming in the human world. The river within is always available to you. So up you get to your feet and face the pyramid of light, walking away from the river. And as you walk towards the giant crystalline structure, a great flash of light occurs, and you are back in your physical body. And I will count us down from 5 to 0, 0 being the most awake and back in the physical, as we complete the return. 5, just feeling a presence of physicality, feeling connected back in your body. 4, just moving the physical body gently, moving feet and hands. 3, just wiggling wrists and ankles. 2, moving fingers and toes. 1, just rotating the head gently, coming back into the physical, about to be fully awake. And when you're ready, 0, eyes open. Welcome back. Okay, my friends, I hope you enjoyed that little release and trust exercise with the river. Something that you can do often. A good little metaphor. I think I will use that one again. It's pretty powerful. But that's all for tonight's show. An hour and a half. 1 hour and 32 minutes and 22 seconds. And we are on the way out. But we have thoroughly enjoyed you being with us. Pookie, you want to say something?
Oh, we're getting better. So you can't put anything up on the screen? Like you can't put up our email or anything like that? I'm not sure if that comment is directed towards us. You don't answer questions by email. It's weird if you're a light worker.
Well, how about that?
I'm not sure if we've received any question from you.
You there?
From you.
You there?
Cleborn.
Oh my goodness.
But we do certainly answer questions by email. So if you want to pop that up on the screen, darling, sunflowerlifedk@gmail.com. If you haven't emailed us before, there's a good chance it went into our junk mail and we didn't see it. So I'll definitely go back and check to see if we're missing any questions. Unfortunately, we have this website forum where people can also send us emails, and we just get like so much spam email that comes through there on a daily basis. So we might just have to be a little bit more diligent. The other thing you can do, if you can put up our Instagram, can you put up our Instagram handle?
I can't. For some reason, Restream has wiped.
Oh, good.
Restream has wiped all of our captions. I had about 50 of them on it.
Okay, well, hopefully we can get those back. Restream, you know how much I love Restream.
Yeah, we're close to getting rid of this Restream.
I think this might be the last straw for Restream.
Maybe.
But you guys can also give us a follow on Instagram. So it is at @the_sunflower_life. If you find us on Instagram and you send us a message there in the DMs, we're usually pretty good at responding and chatting back and forth with our Soul Fam on Instagram. So there are many ways you guys can reach out, and we will always do our best to connect with you and answer questions. And we're definitely not trying to avoid anything. We also try to go on the comments on YouTube as well and answer the questions. So hopefully that answered the question. If there's any more.
No, it's yeah.
Hit
Yes,
him. Hit me with him. I'm
send us a
ready.
message. I'm ready to sign off here. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Let us know how that meditation went. If you want to join the mailing list, do go to thesunflowerlife.com. Scroll to the bottom of the screen, enter in your email address where it prompts you, and you'll be put onto our mailing list to be notified of global mass meditations. We've got one coming up on the 8th, isn't that right, Pookie?
April 8th for the solar eclipse at 7 o'clock p.m. PST our time. So you'll have to do the conversion if you're on the other side of the world or on the other side of the country. But it's going to be a big day for meditation. The best advice we can give now is just to hold the highest vibration that you can, especially leading up to the eclipse. We know the energies are strong and powerful, and we're certainly feeling them. It can be exhausting. It can be tiring to be a light worker and trying to hold that light and that high vibe all the time. But we know you guys are up for the task, and we know that's why you came. So
100%, yeah. So yeah, we'll see you guys on the 8th.
Absolutely.
Again, join that mailing list and you won't ever miss a global mass meditation. They're very, very powerful. We had almost 500 people on last time. I'm sure we might get close to that again this time. So yeah, we love those. It's going to be a really, really powerful show. So thank you for joining us. We love you, and we can't wait to see you, those of you that are coming to that meditation. And keep on keeping on. Keep on doing the work. And we can't wait to see you then.
Yes, we love you all. Towards the light we go.
Towards the light we go.